Let's take a look at how to do a split gauge, a left and right. You could do upper and lower, you could do left and right, you could do four quadrants using the same basic technique. And it's similar to the gauge stacking, except we'll have the scales, the rainbow arcs for both of the stacked gauges showing, and we'll turn off one of the faces, the disc, the background. So let's start out with a round needle gauge. Let's turn on our alignment grid because we're going to be splitting this gauge in half. And let's start out with the left-hand gauge. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is go down to arc start and arc end, and you can see that we can slide these things around with our sliders for arc start and arc end. It's getting a little crazy here. Okay, arc start and arc end, something like that, and then we'll go to the keyboard and we'll bring this down to say 170 degrees, and we'll bring this one up at the top up to a point where that 100 doesn't quite go over the margin. So, well, let's see, let's go up to minus 20, and then we'll take care of that adjustment in a minute with the 100 almost touching the edge. And then we'll slide our label position left, right. We'll slide that over a bit, and the up, down, we'll move that down a bit. Okay, that looks about right. And we'll take our readout position and we'll move that to what we think will be a nice position if we split this gauge left and right. Okay, that looks about right. So there's the left-hand side of the gauge. Perhaps it's a fuel gauge. It's green at the top and red at the bottom. Of course, we could change that with our color spectrum down here. Now that we've got that looking kind of the way we want, let's make a duplicate of that. Okay, now we don't see anything different because it's just a duplicate lying on top of the original. But let's finish editing the first one and then go down to edit the second one. The first thing, let's turn off the face visibility. Let's give it its own label of right, and now you can see they're overlapping. So we'll take the readout position left, right, and we'll slide that over out of the way to the other side, and we'll go down to the label position left, right, and we'll slide that over to the other side. And then what we can do is we can go back to our arc start and arc end, and we can slide them around to the point where they're going to look right for the gauge going in the other direction. So something like that. And I think we said that this one was 20 and the other one was, I think, about 170. We could go back and check that. Okay. Now you'll see that the gauge on the left, the numbers are increasing going clockwise, which is the conventional direction for our gauges. We want this one actually to work backwards, so we're going to set the minimum to 100 and the maximum to 0. That'll cause the gauge to read backwards. We made a choice not to invert the color scale, so it's green, yellow, orange, red. So let's go green, yellow, orange, red. Okay, so now we've got the color scales lined up. Now we got those hundreds that are a little close. Now we could pull the arcs out a little bit, but I think we could probably cheat a little bit on this tick to number spacing and tuck these things in just a little closer to the axis. So we take that to, let's say we take it to 80, and we'll go on the other gauge, and we'll take that also from 100 down to 80. And that pulls our 100s apart a little bit. Still maybe doesn't look quite right. So let's pull the arc start back. Sorry, it's not that one, it's this one. Let's oops, arc start minus 20. Let's go minus 22, and then we'll go down and edit the other one, arc start, and this one we'll make it 22, and that pulls those two 100s apart. Okay, so now we have the two gauges. We've separated the left and right labels. We've separated the digital readouts. Now let's give them a little decoration. So let's go to the font label color, and the left we'll make blue. Because blue doesn't look so good against the dark background, we'll give it a white background. We'll go make the needle to match in a blue. We'll come down and we'll decorate the other gauge. Font color red. Let's go orange. We'll do kind of complementary colors there. Okay, left and right. If we wanted to make that maybe look a little better, we could kind of add one space on the left and one space on the right, maybe two spaces. Get the left and right boxes closer to the same size, and then let's decorate the needle here in the same color, orange. And there we go. We've got a split gauge. So what we've done is we've turned off the face visibility on the top gauge so that we can see through to the bottom gauge. We've left the scale on, and we've squished these two scales and their scale arcs to be on opposite sides of the left and right. And again, you can see how you could use this technique to make, if you wanted to, without you could turn off the face entirely. In fact, if we go up to the top gauge and we turn off the face visibility, then you see we have no face. And in fact, if we wanted to just make a half gauge that went 180 degrees of arc, we could do that. We could do that from the left to the right, top to the bottom. Again, we could do that in 4 quadrants if we wanted to. We could play some games with the let's see, the tick to number spacing. We could move these numbers outside the gauge if we wanted to. Then we'd have to, of course, slide the labels out a little bit more, and that would solve this problem with the hundreds coming together. We could tuck those 2 arcs at the top in a little closer. So you get the idea. There's enough flexibility here to do things that are going to look pretty nice and get the gauge to look the way you want it to.